Hey y'all, it's Laura, and I'm back with another Cocoa Vanilla Studio layout using the brand new Sunkissed collection. It's absolutely stunning, and the first photos that I thought of to use with this collection are these. Now, these were 3x4s that I trimmed down to 3x3, and they are all photos of my youngest daughter in her little Tykes car. Now, the colors in these photos were yellow and red, a touch of green, can be a bit tricky to find in collections that I like. Quite often they're very primary colored collections, tend to be more masculine focused towards boys, and obviously my darling little girl is in this particular set of photos, and she is clutching her favorite stuffies, so I didn't really want something masculine to scrap this layout. And I am starting with a piece of white 9x12 cardstock, and then I'm going to create two borders on the left and the right. Now, the beauty of this collection is it has a rainbow of colors and it's filled with florals, so it's perfect for scrapping this sweet little girl in her little car. Now I am going to go ahead and create a bit of a film strip with this wood grain paper and add all three of my photos in a row onto this wood grain so that it is the frame for my three photos. I do this pretty often when I use multiple photos, just kind of group them together rather than spread them out around the page. And I just find it easier, especially in this case where this is a series of photos. It makes more sense to look at them one after another as opposed to in different places on the layout. And looking at these photos, you will have quite the giggle when you see them up close, because that center photo is amazing. She was playing in this car. She's holding a giant stuffed dinosaur. She's holding a teddy bear and a lion. And the first photo, she doesn't know I'm taking her picture. The second photo, she sees me taking her picture and is mortified. The third photo, she's laughing at me because I'm taking her picture. Just the range of emotions on her face in this set of photos just cracks me up. So now I have this lovely pile of fussy cut florals that I cut out from one of the 12x12 pattern papers, as well as one of the A5 papers from the smaller paper pack. And I'm just going to layer them along the left border of these photos. Now, I love to do floral explosion layouts, but I don't want to use up the entire pack of floral ephemera. So by fussy cutting the pattern papers, I get these beautiful clusters. I can use several of them on a layout, and I haven't used all of my embellishments to make it. So in this case, my border line here on the left is the guide for my floral explosion. It helps me to know exactly where to put each of the clusters to keep them contained in one space, and it just sort of adds a nice little wraparound mat for my photos. Now, because I'm doing this layout in a 9x12, I wanted to show you how you could work this into a 12x12. So I do have a sketch at the very end of the video that illustrates how you could do this with two larger photos, like 4x4 photos, instead of the three smaller ones, and how you could rearrange things on your space given that you have an extra 3 inches horizontally on that layout. Now, as I'm picking through my clusters, I'm trying to decide whether or not I want any of the florals to overlap on top of my photos, or if I want all of them to just tuck behind. I do decide in the end to go with tucking behind, and then I add some smaller clusters on the other side that will sit on top. The reason for this is because putting the florals on top draws a little bit of your attention away from the photos, and what I want you to do is see the line of florals on the left, see the photos, so that kind of draws your eye into the photos because there are so many, and then the floral that will lay slightly on top on the right will help draw your eye down into the title and the journaling, so it kind of leads your eye through the rest of the layout. So that's my intention there. Now, there are a lot of fussy cut floral options on these pattern papers, everything from big giant clusters down to teeny tiny little blue and pink bits and pieces. So I did cut all of those out because I really like those tiny florals for sprinkling around my clusters later on. So here's where I decide, okay, let's put all of these guys behind on the left side, and then I have that small cluster there on the right that does kind of draw your eye through the photos and will lead to the rest of the layout. Now, another thing that I did here is by creating a larger border on the left that grabs your attention more than the border on the right, which is smaller and thinner. And again, it's about leading your eye to the photos first and then through the rest of the layout. I'm always thinking about motion and movement on my layout and how I want to guide the eye through the layout. What's the most important thing? Almost always for me, it's the photos. So that's going to be my focal image 100% of the time. Now I'm bringing in some bits and pieces from the die cut pack. I have the tab up at the top left. I have a couple of word phrases I'm going to tuck in between each of my photos. So they'll be separated by a small word phrase and embellishment, which just adds a little bit of fun and detail onto the page and kind of bounces your eye back and forth through the photos, just makes them look a little bit more interesting. Now for my title, I chose to use the beautiful foam title stickers that came with this collection, and the fun in the sun just called to me because this is clearly in our very well lit sun-flooded backyard, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful, actually fall day. But I thought this fit perfectly with the photos. You can see the sun reflecting off of her little car and everything. I thought that was just perfect. And I don't know. I really want the photos in a large way to speak for themselves because looking through them will give you quite a giggle. Just the range of emotions that she's expressing absolutely cracked me up every time. Now, initially I was going to start just to the right of that floral cluster, but it looked a bit off and everything was not centered. And I didn't really love the way that that looked. So I ended up moving it down underneath of the floral cluster. And I think this works a whole lot better. I think it looks just a little cleaner on the page. I'm also keeping in mind that I want to leave enough space underneath for just a little bit of journaling, really just talking about how much she was enjoying taking her stuffies for a ride and how rudely she was interrupted by the paparazzi. Which is me. Normally she's quite used to me taking her photo because I'm always taking the kids' photos, but in this case I managed to catch her off guard for once. So here we have fun in the sun. Now off camera I did decide, once I thought I was done, to add a small cluster at the end of sun just to balance out the one that is at the top right of the photos, and I really like how that turns out. You will see that in the still photos at the end as well as on the Coco Vanilla blog, which is cocovanilla.com.au, and it is a really great place for inspiration if you are looking for it. A ton of us design team members are making our layouts with Sunkissed at the moment, and so it's a great opportunity to get a good look at the collection. Now I'm bringing in some clear stickers and adding these really cute little crosses behind several of my clusters. I'm going to put them at the top and the bottom of the row of photos, as well as behind the cluster to the right. And I think this really has a kind of stamped effect to it. It sort of looks like I've stamped onto the background, but they're really just clear stickers. Having a lot of fun with the clear stickers recently. I also added some of those gold glitter hearts in several other places on the layout to kind of tie in the title with the rest of the layout. So I have a heart at the end of I have one at the top left of the photos, one with the cluster at the top right of the photos, and this helps to bring that gold glitter look around the page so that my title doesn't stand out as if it's awkward and unusual for it to be there. I do add these arrows here above my title. I will add another set when I add that cluster at the bottom right. I am going to bring in one of these wood buttons as well, one of the smaller ones, and tuck it in right here instead of the second floral by the word phrase sticker. So this adds something that's not papery. It adds something with a little bit more texture and dimension, which I kind of thought that it needed just to break things up a little bit. Because I've fussy cut all these florals on the side and I have sprinkled them throughout the layout, I did want to add something that stood out a little bit more than the florals do. So just popping that one little wood veneer button right there works beautifully. Now I'm going to grab some of these really, really tiny fussy cut florals and sprinkle them around the clusters of florals, and this is my scattering. So scattering and splattering is how I finish up every single one of my layouts, and in the scattering process I just add small tiny detail pieces around my clusters. For splattering I use two forms. One is a controlled splatter using Nuvo drops, and then I used a more wild and uncontrolled splatter using a gold ink spray. Before I do that, however, I want to make sure to draw in my journaling lines, because trying to draw in journaling lines after you've splattered gold ink spray everywhere is a bit tricky and doesn't always turn out terribly well. So just using a T-square ruler to line up my lines and make them straight, I'm going to vary their length just for interest, just to make it look a little bit more fun. And then I will throw in some journaling about her playing in her car. Now, once the journaling lines are in, I will go ahead with the gold ink spray, splattering all about. Be sure to stay tuned for the sketch as well as the still photos, and be sure to check out the blog post on cocovanilla.com.au. Until next time, bye guys!